So if you read the Constitution of Canada, okay, so under the Constitution, right, Article 6, Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Canadian citizen has the right to return to Canada, right? So how could I be too poor? If a foreigner is coming here as a tourist, I understand if a foreigner is coming here on a work permit, maybe there are other issues. If a Canadian citizen is returned to Canada, you are telling me that it is possible for them to be too poor to be allowed to enter Canada? Because nobody asked me questions about that. They weren't asking about my income in that sense. But it was on the way into Canada. I was arriving. Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. So when my bags were searched, every document, including handwritten documents, were read. Okay. So were you searching for drugs when you read my private divorce documents? When you read handwritten stories between me and my daughter? Like, what's the justification for that? Sorry, but all of these things are wildly out of whack with both what the Constitution says in principle and in practice, and with the ostensible and actual reason. Like, I completely believe in border security. I completely believe in searching for drugs. Great. However, searching for drugs would not justify either that line of questioning or reading handwritten documents in my luggage. To me, that's hilarious. Great. R.V. Simmons, 1988. I completely agree. They should, and I encourage them to. I said, great, go ahead and search my luggage. Great, yeah. Right. Okay, right. Sure. So just let me ask you something. When I said I have the right to remain silent, I said, look, I'm going to decline to answer questions that are totally unrelated to the Constitution. And I continue to answer questions about my luggage or my trip. That's fine. Completely appropriate for the situation. I was told, no, you do not have the right to remain silent. Right. On a search, yes, right. Right. But obstruction of justice only applies if you have committed a crime, if I'm concealing a crime. If I have not committed any crime, I can't be guilty of obstruction of justice, right? Right. This paperwork was used completely maliciously, and they admitted it, and it was used maliciously for reasons they stated. The woman interrogating me openly stated, angrily shouting at me from the minute I came in the room, that she thought I was arrogant and she was going to punish me for that. This is open, so malice in conduct was openly and proudly stated to my face. So when you say an investigation into, or not even investigation, what would be a lower legal term here? When you say there may be a consideration of how to improve officers' conduct. I mean, I completely understand. Most of these things would just be a management level discussion. There's no question here of a criminal charge. I really do understand that. My university education is in political science. I don't have unreasonable expectations of these things. So when that happens with the police, or even with like the manager at Starbucks, you just say, well, look, something went wrong here. There is some degree of public transparency where you get informed, well, look, management did take a look at this and whatever. Even if it's a completely hollow apology, they just say, well, look, we're going to try to do better next time. We realize this wasn't optimal. So you're telling me there's nothing possible on that front? Because I assume everything is on videotape. I assume all these people yelling at me and interrogating me and trying to intimidate me, I assume this is all on videotape. Right. So there's no oversight body, and therefore, so I mean, to give an example, let's say I wanted to employ a lawyer and actually get the footage, get the surveillance footage, so that I can make use of it. Is there a procedure for that? Oh no, I mean, but thank you for telling me that. The other question I have for you, which is obviously mostly for future reference, do I have the legal right to record myself when I'm going through customs? Given that what you're telling me, I understand, I appreciate it, is that basically I have absolutely no human rights and no recourse to any kind of legal or judicial oversight afterwards. Do I have the ability to, say, make an audio recording or video recording on my mobile phone while I'm being interrogated? Okay, so no, I mean, thank you for telling me that. I think that's worth getting word of. I'll probably publish a newspaper article on this experience. So you do have the legal right to record yourself while going through Canadian customs. That's really important. Now, look, I just want to say, I think what's really interesting about this situation, I don't know if you will yourself see the footage. And I'm really not complaining. I'm not boasting. I'm just describing this, for the record or for your interest. This situation started with these people really trying to intimidate me and really trying to humiliate me. And it really ended with them being pretty humiliated and my sitting there and kind of talking to them philosophically. But the fact I asked them, I said, look, civil rights don't just exist for nice people, for people you sympathize with. Like, I understand, for whatever reason, when I came through customs and I was extremely sleep deprived, I just had come back from France, jet lag and what have you, for whatever reason, you just didn't like me. But that's why we have civil rights. Civil rights aren't to protect people you like. They're to protect people whom authority figures dislike or have an animus towards that may be irrational or maybe what have you. And we really talked this stuff through, and they were really embarrassed and on the ropes about it. But I think they have no education in the concept of civil rights and the concept of human rights as it applies to border services. Right. So the initial interview, I was simply asked, do you have family in France? And I said, yes, ma'am, I do. That was the only question I was given at what they call primary, the first stage of content. And then they said, okay, we're going to search your bag. And I said, great, go ahead and search, because I completely believe it's like, in principle, everyone has their bag searched repeatedly when crossing a border, going through security at various stages. I have no objection to having my bag searched, and I'm not guilty of any crime. I've done nothing wrong. But to tell someone you do not have the right to remain silent, and if you choose to remain silent, you will be charged with obstruction of justice. That's a remarkable thing to tell someone, especially when the questioning is way outside of the purview of what Border Service is supposed to be questioning Canadian citizens about. In theory, we live in a democratic country. In theory, I can now talk to Parliament, and this really seems to be a kind of legislative vacuum where Canadian Parliament needs to pass some kind of resolution so that, again, a Canadian citizen returned to Canada. Something else I said to them, because they were really interrogating me. They were really insulting me for no reason. I said to them, I've been interrogated by customs all over the world, including communist countries, communist China, communist Laos. No one has ever treated me as badly as Canadian customs in my own country. The Americans have never treated me this badly, not the Chinese, nobody. I'm treated worse in my own country by Canadian Border Services when there's nothing to establish here. You're not trying to interrogate. It's not a job interview. You're not really trying to test the value of my character beyond establishing whether or not you want to search my bags. Then once you search my bags, there's not a lot more to know. Why am I insulted and denigrated and treated in a subhuman way in my own country? I'm never treated this way in China, Thailand, Cambodia, Europe, anywhere else in the world. Look, this has been a great conversation, but as you know, we can defer to the tape. It's all on tape. And I've given you my written complaint. I'm satisfied. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me. I mean, I understand this is probably not the most pleasant part of your job, but thank you for taking the time to talk to me, and thank you also for confirming that as a Canadian citizen, you do have the right to record yourself when you're going through customs. That's great. Thank you.